March 3, 9:12 p.m. Dear Cohen suggests that I return to the practice of journaling. She claims that writing will enable me to observe patterns. Claims it's a sanctuary. No one is obligated to read it. It is solely for my own enjoyment. Unbeknownst to her, I have already begun to weave my words onto the page. She remains unaware that each time I take my place at this desk, my words do not flow from my own experiences. They are dedicated to him. Eli is his name. At the age of 27, the companion of my son, a student from my past, the reason behind my restless. March 4th, 6:41 a.m. Dea caught sight of him once more. It was not intentional. He came over to assist Nathan in relocating a few items from the basement. As I swung the door open, his smile greeted me warmly, as if everything was perfectly fine. It was simply Nathan's mother. I extended a cup of coffee to him. He accepted it. Unadulterated. I recalled. Conversation was sparse, sufficiently ample. Yet his gaze lingered on mine. Just a moment too long as he uttered his gratitude. My hand quivered ever so slightly as it grazed his while I handed over the cup. Nathan remained oblivious. However, I believe Eli did. On the 6th of March at 11:28 in the evening, 3 days have passed. Yet that moment lingers in my thoughts. I find myself pondering. What is this? A crush? You say desire? Peculiar sort of midlife reverie. Or could it be that after years of dormancy I finally sense something stirring within me? Something that feels alive, something that remains in plain. In the past I found myself crafting verses that explored themes like this. Now I inscribe my guilt upon the page and conceal it within the confines of locked drawers. On the 8th of March, at precisely 103 in the afternoon, he visited once more. Nathan was absent from the house. He mentioned that he had forgotten his charger during his last visit. I invited him to step inside and search for it. He was unable to locate the charger, yet he stumbled upon the book I had been engrossed in, resting on the coffee table. Rilke, Correspondence with an Aspiring Poet. He grasped it firmly. Recite the underlined passage aloud. Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses patiently awaiting a moment when we will rise to the occasion, displaying beauty and courage in our actions. He raised his gaze and inquired, "Did you underline that?" I agreed. He offered another smile, the smile slow and filled with understanding, and then he departed. An instant on the evening of March 10th, at precisely 9:45 p.m. he visited my dreams. It lacked any sexual undertones. It was even more dire. We found ourselves perched on the porch. A summer night, the cicada serenade from trees. He was reciting a passage with a voice that carried through the womb. I found myself simply listening, yet he continued to halt, casting glances in my direction. Found myself clinging to the hope that he would continue on unceasing. As I stirred from slumber, my hand instinctively sought the pillow that lay beside me. A chill in the air was palpable. On the 11th of March at precisely 7:20 in the morning, dear Cohen inquired about the progress of my journaling. I conveyed to her that it was indeed beneficial. She inquired whether I was pinning my own story. Agreed. That was a lie. Every word so far has been about him. March 12, 10:16 p.m. Today I remember the first time I ever noticed him as something more than a kid. It was last fall. I was carrying groceries. He seized the bag from my hands without a word of inquiry. Upon expressing my gratitude, he replied, "You are worthy of care and attention as well, you realize." Brushed it aside with a chuckle. That line lingered in my mind. For so long I have yearned for gentleness that the sensation of being truly seen has faded from my memory. March 14th, 11:59 p.m. Tomorrow I have another appointment with Dr. Cohen. She will inquire about the progress made. Let us delve into the subject of boundaries. The journey of healing concerning autonomy. I will articulate everything perfectly, yet the reality in all honesty, I have no desire to cease my reflections on him, even if I ought to, even though I am aware of the potential destination of this journey, even if he never gazes at me in that manner again. For the first time in years I sense that my words are reaching someone who truly comprehends my thoughts. Long last, the silence that has enveloped my existence for decades finds its voice. Is March 16th, 8:13 p.m. The rain falls softly this evening, the sort of rain that hushes the world around it. As I sit by the window, my notebook lies open, the pen resting still in my hand. I find myself repeating the same line. Vice. I find myself yearning for his return. Then I strike it through. Subsequently I pin it once more. Find myself in the position of a girl, eagerly anticipating a boy's call. However, I find myself at the age of 52. He is 27 years old. Surely I ought to be more discerning. On the 17th of March, at precisely 4:52 in the afternoon, from the vantage of the upstairs window I caught sight of Eli. He strolled through the neighborhood, his dog trotting happily beside him, the very same brown lab that has been his companion since his high school days. He came to a halt directly before the house, gazed upward. I retreated from behind the curtain, ensuring he wouldn't catch a glimpse of me. My heart raced uncontrollably. Felt reminiscent of those times when I covertly engaged with someone I ought not to have, in a time when longing danced on the edge of peril, both intoxicating and delightful. This point it has become perilous, yet it retains its sweetness. On the evening of March 18th, at precisely 7:15 p.m. he rapped on the door. I never envisioned. A gentle rap echoed through the stillness, uncertain as if he was trying to avoid frightening me. The door creaked open, revealing what lay beyond. My hands trembled with an unsteady rhythm. He wore a hoodie clinging to him, dampened by the relentless rain. "Happened to be driving by," he remarked. "I wondered if perhaps you might appreciate some company." I lingered for a moment that stretched just a bit too far. Then I withdrew to the periphery. "Step inside," he hesitated before taking seat. He surveyed his surroundings. The same living room he has known since the age of 16. "Everything appears diminished now," he remarked. He let out a hearty laugh. We took our seats, distance from one another, excessively distant. I inquired about his work. He shared his thoughts on graduate school with me. Poured the He grasped his mug, our fingers grazing against each other. "We're rather silent," he remarked. "You are as well. Is that a negative thing?" "Well." March 18th, 10:34 p.m. He departed shortly after 9. Silence reigned. Nothing transpired. Not as you might imagine. Yet everything unfolded as well. He settled on the floor at my feet as we immersed ourselves in the sounds of an old jazz record that had lain dormant for years. At a certain moment he tilted his head back against the couch, surrendering to the embrace of stillness. As he closed his eyes, I observed him closely. Each line etched upon his face was once overlooked by me. have now committed it to memory. Before departing, he cast a glance in my direction. It seems to me that your words are reflecting my experiences. Stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. What leads you to that conclusion? I have been pinning my thoughts about you. He offered a smile and stepped through the threshold. Found myself awake through the night. Settled in with my journal. He inscribed his name, leaving it untouched. On the 20th of March, at precisely 5:12 in the evening. Today I flipped open my notebook, yet the date remained unwritten. The weather remained unmentioned in my writing. I didn't attempt to present it as a session. Pinned a reflection on his hands. The manner in which he cradled his tea on that particular evening, the subtle quiver in his fingers, or perhaps it was my own. I described his appearance as the jazz enveloped the room, the gentle arc of his neck as he reclined. His silence enveloped us, allowing the music to articulate all the unspoken words lingering in the air. Once it was a journal, it has become a destination I seek out in moments of longing for him. On the 21st of March, at precisely 8:44 in the morning, fear grips me, not due to any fear of being discovered. Yet, fragment of my being remains indifferent to whether I am or not. What began as a subtle revelation has evolved into something entirely different. Gentry takes the form of a letter. Each letter is crafted for him. Have yet to inform Dr. Cohen. I shall not. This has transcended the realm of therapy. It is essential for survival. It is the soul sanctuary where I sense my presence remains intact. On the night of March 23rd at precisely 11:02 p.m. he returned once more. This time he chose not to knock. He sent a message. Are you home? As soon as I uttered the word yes, he appeared at the door within a mere 2 minutes. He arrived with nothing more than a solitary folded sheet of paper, a lyrical composition not his own yet. One he mentioned brought me to mind. He remained vague about which part it was. He simply placed it in my hands before settling back down onto the floor. Zip was previously the sound of the rain enveloped us. Silence reigns only rain. After he departed, I found myself immersed in the poem. It was a tale of a woman who lingered within her own home for so long that she seemed to merge with the very walls that surrounded her, until someone laid eyes on her. Uncertain about the message he's attempting to convey, yet I believe I grasped the essence regardless. March 24th, 9:33 p.m. Today I crafted another entry. Yet this time upon completion I ripped the page from the book. It was carefully folded. I have taken care of. For him I chose not to send it. It now rests beneath my pillow like a forgotten artifact of youth I believed I had laid to rest long before. Find myself pondering, what if I were to give it to him? What if he were to read? What if he responded? Or perhaps, what if he chose not to? On the morning of March 25th, as the clock strikes 6, the world stirs awake. From the depth of slumber I emerged, shaken from a dream's embrace. He found himself in the kitchen preparing eggs without a shirt, chortling with delight. Or I stood barefoot and draped in my robe, observing him as if it were the most ordinary occurrence imaginable, as if we had been practicing this for ages, as if it were not a mistake. I lingered on the edge of the bed for 20 minutes, my gaze fixed on the spot on the floor where he had last been, where his sock had gathered a leaf from my front step, had not brushed it aside. It remains, lingering in the shadows. He is as well even in his absence. March 27, 5:04 p.m. I'm unsure whether I intentionally left it out. As I tended to the couch, I found myself immersed in the task of cleaning, neatly arranging blankets. He lit the candle he had once praised. The journal lay before me, its pages already turned to reveal the thoughts within, gently creased along the spine. Might have been able to shut it. I might have set it aside. Yet I refrained. On the evening of March 27th, at precisely 8:47 p.m., he visited once more. This time I allowed no facade of astonishment to mask my true feelings. He arrived, bearing wine. Is it too early for summer rose? He asked, a smile playing on his lips. I gently shook my head. The moment is always ripe. We took our seats, engaged in conversation, the sort of languid, meandering conversation that arises when one is deliberately avoiding the weighty subject looming in the atmosphere. After that, I made my way to the kitchen, only for a brief moment. Upon my return, there he was, grasping it firmly in his hands, the diary. The evening of March 27th, at precisely 9:13 p.m. He didn't regard me as if I had committed a transgression. He peered unfazed. He merely gazed, transformed, silently shifted. Is this truly how you perceive me? He inquired. Words eluded me. I inclined my head in agreement. He placed the book down with care, as if it were something fragile. As I once was. You expressed thoughts I've never heard anyone voice before, he murmured. I was on the verge of offering my apologies in preparation for the invasion, the fragility, the truthfulness. Yet just as I was about to speak, he interjected. I appreciate it. March 28th, 12:04 a.m. Our lips never met. Not at this moment. He extended his arm over the couch and grasped my hand, maintained a firm grip on it. It was as if he possessed an understanding of all the unspoken words that had already found their way onto page. You give me a sense of companionship in this vast world, he remarked. Breath eluded me, for it was the very essence of my repeated scribblings. He perused my pages and remained steadfast. He remained. March 29th, 9:08 a.m. I woke, my fingers lingering on the edge of the page, the one he caressed. I hadn't noticed that I had drifted off with the journal beside me. Protective barrier I had outgrown. A profound sense of unease stirred within me, yet unafraid a change had occurred. Perhaps it had been undergoing a transformation for weeks, unnoticed. Now it had reached a volume that could no longer be overlooked. On the evening of March 30th, at the stroke of 7:00 p.m., he sent me a message. Are you home? Despite my silence, he arrived. Nonetheless, his eyes held a gentle warmth, and his voice flowed with an unusual softness. Our conversations were few and far between. There was no necessity for that. Prepared some tea. Was once more ritual. He strolled by me toward the couch, settling into the spot he always claims. This time I positioned myself nearer, so near that the air around us hummed as if anticipating something. He cast his gaze in my direction, truly examined, not as if one were seeking approval, yet an individual who had already experienced. March 30th, 7:41 p.m. His fingers brushed against my cheek. Thus began the journey, that singular gesture as delicate as a whisper, yet burdened with the weight of 10 years of yearning. His thumb glided beneath my eye as if he had etched the contours into his memory. Then he pressed his lips against mine.